Please consider liking the video and subscribing. Let's begin. Cuphead is one of the best indie games, or just game in general, that I've played in my life. This game just does everything right. From the art design, the gameplay, the creativity of it, it's truly amazing. Shout out to MDHR for making this. A lot of people praise Cuphead, of course, but something that I don't see a lot of people praise is the animation. Now hold on. Yes, obviously people love it, but what I'm talking about is the boss stage transition animation. Now, these couple frames don't get much attention when playing because the player is too busy focusing on not dying on the million things on screen. But when watching gameplay or going back and forth and playing the game, it's the small things that really do add to this game's masterpiece. Now in this video, I wanted to rank all the Cuphead boss transition animations. Now I'm not doing all the bosses from the game, just the ones from Inkwell IO2, a world with pretty cool bosses. So let's dive into this match. It's gonna get red hot. Now, for the ranking system I'm going to be using, it's the classic D through S, but with a Cuphead rating. But I won't be mixing them up. I'll keep each rank separate until the end. We'll see which one made the best tier, which is S. And at the end, we'll look at all of them and see who truly has the best boss transition animation. As for their death animation, I'll pick my favorite from each boss. If I go through each one, this would get really messy really fast, so we'll stay out for that. So now that that's settled, let's get into the first boss for real this time. The first one I want to look at is Pepe the Clown. Now this boss battle is just stellar. At first the match starts with him just looking at the player in a sort of amazement. Then in a flash he jumps on his go-kart and begins the first phase. So far nothing really special, but nothing that crazy. Also I'd give it a solid C. Once again nothing special, but it is not bad either. In the second phase he comes up on a giant balloon machine and inflates his own head. But not only that, if you pay close attention to the size of the machine, a lot of pipes start to form, and from there the balloon dogs spawn. So for this specific animation I'm giving it an A because of the way the pipes form. It's very satisfying. For the third phase, this one probably is the most lackluster of all of them. The reason for this is he's just on his own, jumping up and down, freaking out on a different colored donkey. For this one, I'm giving it a D. Finally, for the last transition animation, when he becomes, what do you call this? I don't even know what this is called. One of these carnival rides that spins. This is the best transition animation because his expression on his face, he starts laughing, and also with the roller coaster coming by with the test dummies looking a little sinister as it continues, he releases baseball penguins from his mouth, allowing them to roll out. His facial expression looks really cool here. I'm giving this an S because it's so creative. I don't know. Finally, my favorite death animation in this boss is the very last one, where his entire face comes apart and you're able to see his tongue and the uvula. Once again, a very cool boss battle. I love the aesthetic of it. Moving on to the next. On to the next boss, we have Jimmy the Great. Once again, another very cool concept of a boss battle. The battle begins with Jimmy spawning from a smoke cloud. He grows into size and forms himself, then proceeds to blow a shape of the head of Cuphead, who's dead. This is already really good. I'm giving this a B. After this phase, he disappears and is in the pillars of a pyramid. This is kind of just okay because nothing really happens. I'm giving this a D. In the third phase, a giant tomb comes from the sky, then his head pops out from the ethereal plane, where he screams at the player. This is very cool. The ethereal plane in Cuphead is kind of a mystery. For this animation though, I'm giving it an A because the tomb opens itself up. It's just a very clean animation. Proceeding to the fourth form, where he suddenly appears and is meditating, thinking of his next move, till he gets an idea and decides to create a giant Cuphead with his hands controlling it off screen. This is also another very cool animation. I'm giving this an A. Finally, in his final form, he appears taking up almost half the screen, where his eyes now glow yellow and he begins to wave his hands, where 3 pyramids appear and beam ethereal energy. Along with this, the way he keeps his smoking pipe in his mouth. This entire segment is great. I'm giving this another A. This boss battle in general is just, really well done. The detail and animation is awesome. As for my favorite death animation, it's pretty hard to choose from the tomb phase where a tear begins to fall and he sadly bounces away in defeat, or where the fake Cuphead puts his hands together and a straw turns into a halo and he floats to the sky as if he really died and went to heaven. I'm gonna go with that one just because I think it's really creative and funny. Moving on. Perhaps my least favorite boss in this Inkwell, it's Baroness Von Bon Bon. Right off the bat, as the battle begins, she slices off her own head, signaling that we're dead. But then the candy cane she uses, as if forcefully, takes her by the neck and drags her into the sentient castle, where he opens his teeth, which are the gates. It's a lot to take in these 2 seconds that it lasts. Though, because it's jam-packed with a lot of detail, I'm giving this an A. What's different about this one from the other bosses is that it's a bunch of mini-bosses, so I'll be rating their death animations, only for this though. First, we have Musky Cherenskov. I don't know if I said that right. His death animation is where he suddenly stops, waves his hands, and where he suddenly explodes. I'm giving this a D. Nothing really special here. Next is Sir Wafflington III. He has way more detail. Here he explodes, but his waffle pieces move in all different directions. This is for a strange reason for me satisfying for me to watch. I really like it. I'd give this a grade of an A. Next is Colonel Von Pop, who is just a bad death animation. Immediately just a D. Second to last, we have Lord Godpacker, who's a very cool idea for a boss. His death animation is perhaps one of the best. It rivals that of Sir Wafflington III. Here he begins to break layer by layer until we reach the core, where he dies and has a halo form above him. Then he slowly flies into the sky. I love this animation. I'm going to grade it a B. Finally, for the last mini-boss, it's Sergeant Gumbo Gumball. These names are just amazing. Shout out to whoever made this. Here, his head just explodes, but his body's still running around. He takes a lap and then runs off screen. Not bad. I'm going to give it a solid C. As for Baroness Von Bon Bon, once you defeat all the mini-bosses, she decides that enough is enough. She'll finish the fight herself. She climbs on top of the castle with an evil look on her face and pulls the ears of the castle, pissing it off or maybe forcing it to command it. It begins to crawl towards the player with giant mints rolling out of its mouth. During this, Von Bon Bon throws her head constantly at us. I'm giving this an S rank because of everything that's going on. As for my favorite death animation in this boss fight, I'm gonna have to give it to Von Bon Bon. The reason for this is because she looks so angry that she lost. Both her and the castle just start bawling their eyes out as if losing was just not an option. On to the next one. Moving on to the next boss, we have Wally Wares, whose intro animation is just one of the best here. A clock that makes the cuckoo sound, and along with that, the eyes on the clock roll around, while also having a wooden woodpecker repeatedly pop in and out from the birdhouse. This in itself is really cool. Immediately, I'm giving this an A. As for the second phase, he gets really mad and turns his head into a siren horn, and begins to shoot feathers from himself. Now, this really isn't something special for me personally. I'm ranking this a D. On the third phase, Wally seems to die and slips out of the birdhouse with X's on both eyes. Out of the birdhouse rises his son who wants to avenge his father. I do like this more than the previous one. I think it's clever. I'm going to give it a grade of a B. But on the final fourth phase, we learn that Wally is in fact not dead. He comes back with 2 medical birds who help keep him up till he can fight. Also, what I like about this animation and part of the fight is that Wally kicks his own stomach so that his heart can jump out of him and fire bullets at us. At the same time, Wally's actually dead. When the heart goes back into Wally, he's revived. This part of the fight is the best because of what's going on. I'm giving this an S rank. As for my favorite death animation in this entire boss battle, it has to be the ending. After defeating Wally, I'm pretty sure he isn't even fully dead, but the medical birds turn into freaking chefs and start spraying salt and pepper on him, while one of them is licking his beak and the other just has a giant smile on his face. It's a little dark but also funny at the same time. Cannibalistic birds who were just waiting for him to die. I do like this boss fight. Moving on to the final one of this Inkwell. On to our last boss of this Inkwell, it's Grim Mattic, perhaps the hardest boss in this Inkwell too. Immediately to start off this fight, he flies in and sort of roars to make his presence known. Nothing too special here, his whole head sticks out to the player. But what I do find kind of funny here is that he does this little weird thing with his fingers, kind of waving them around, kind of like saying, "Ooh, I'm here." I'm giving this a solid B. On the second phase, Grim flies away and is seen in the background of the map by the castle tower. He then is behind us, laying his mouth down and allowing little fire troopers coming out of his mouth. Also, what's cool about this phase is that fire blows out of his nose like it's an engine. This one gets a solid B. After passing this phase, we come to the last one. Here, Mattic looks defeated, but he generates 3 more heads from himself. They kind of pause for a bit, as if celebrating the transformation. The background goes from being a sunny day to a dark and stormy night, with thunder flashing from time to time. This transformation animation is very cool. I'm giving it an S. I like how it gets more intense, but as for my favorite death animation, it's not the end animation, but for this, it has to be where he's seen flying in the background. I am just a big fan of seeing the boss still on screen when changing phases or progressing the match. Now, that is every single boss animation transition in Inkwell IO2, but what are the results? Well, the worst one I ranked here wasn't even a major boss. It belonged to Colonel Von Pop, who just didn't have an animation that was anything special. He sort of just makes an ugly face and in a split second just flies off screen, and his boss fight is extremely easy, maybe the easiest in the whole game. I don't even like Candy Corn either, so you know what? That makes sense. As for the best, I have a couple. Here are the ones I ranked S. 3-headed Mattic, Wally Wares last phase, Von Bon Bon last phase, and Beppy the Clown last phase. Out of these 4, I'd say the best transition animation here is Wally Wares. Watching these back to back, I just think that this one's really good. Don't get me wrong, every other animation I ranked here is very, very cool, but this one for some reason just sticks out to me. Maybe because it has a dark ending and me having somewhat of a dark humor just makes me laugh. So this is the best animation transition in Inkwell IO2. Once again, this is just my opinion. If you have another one that you think deserves more love, please write it down below in the comments. I would love to read it. Thank you so much for watching. Please like and subscribe. If you'd like me to do the other Inkwells in the game, I'll be happy to do it. But knowing me, I'll probably get around to doing it anyway. So thank you once again. I'll see you in the next one. Please take care of yourself and peace out.